wish you well and happiness and peace and joy wherever you are on this indistinguishable planet called Earth. As you see from the title, it's coming straight from the Bible. So if you don't want to hear about the Bible, I gently bid you farewell, because this channel is about Bible topics. The title: Strong Men Do Cry. Like I said in my other videos, thanks to the Spirit of the living God, typically I talk about things the church, the synagogue, the mosque never talks about. I never heard my preacher talking about men and women in the Bible who cried. There are people in the Bible who cried. Crying is discussed from the modern version of the Bible, the King James Version, the International Version, the 66 books of the Bible. There is crying and weeping from Genesis all the way to Revelation. All in between, it talks about crying and weeping. So, that's a topic. Before we begin, as you see the dragon, let's see the biblical verses that pertain to this particular dragon. It's coming from Revelations chapter 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. So he was called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I try to go over this whenever I talk over something. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how many times at your church that profess to be a follower of Christ, how many times you hear them read in Revelation 12:9 that the Satan has deceived the whole world? So the things that you see outside or hear from people, it may be completely false. They tell you to go left, God said go right. They tell you to go down, God said goes up. Satan, he's not trying, he has deceived the whole world. So you keep that in mind when you're walking in this life on earth. The world has been deceived in multiple ways. Multiple ways. Now, we see a picture of Cain and Abel. So as you surmise, we're going to start talking about Cain and Abel. It's coming from Genesis chapter 4, verse 10. From the New American Standard Version of the Bible. He said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. Not the human being Abel, not the man or the young man, but God said his blood is crying that my life has been taken." But the main point is crying. Abel can't cry anymore because he's gone. But his blood is able to cry out to God, "Help me, I've been murdered." The tender picture, a father comforting his child. This is Genesis chapter 37, verse 35. Let's see what it says. All his sons and daughters came to confront him. It's talking about Jacob. We rarely hear about Jacob and his daughters, but he had a host of children in addition to his 12 sons of Israel. He had daughters, but he refused to be comforted. "No," he said, "I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave." So his father wept for him. Here, he's talking about the treachery that Joseph's brothers did to him by selling him to the Egyptians. They wanted to kill him first, but the oldest son said, no, let's not kill him because he's our blood. Instead of killing him, let's sell him to the Egyptians and make a lie that he was killed by a wild beast. So they tricked their father. But the point is, and Jacob was a strong man. If you know anything about the Bible, he wrestled with an angel. He was a strong, powerful man to wrestle. And it didn't say he wrestled for 5 minutes. No, he wrestled with an angel all night long. What kind of endurance must he have had? What kind of physical strength must he have had? What kind of willpower did he have to wrestle with that angel? And you know, my good people, angels are not weak. He wrestled with his angel all night, and because he wrestled with the angel and he bested the angel, but the angel did something to him. The angel gave him a little disability. But anyway, the angel said, you fought with me all night. I will no longer call you Jacob. Your name now will be called Israel. But you see right here, Jacob, Israel, the strong man, he loved his children. In this case, he loved his son Joseph. He said, I will never forget. I will carry this wound to the grave. Just like many parents today, my good people. When a parent lose their child, they take with them to the grave. And some parents are so devastated by the loss of the child that they end up passing away a month or several years later. And I heard about that with some of the prominent Hollywood stars. I forgot his name, but it was an African American prominent Hollywood star who played in the what you call it, the soaps, you know, the morning soaps. He was an African American actor. He had a son. I believe his son overdosed or passed away in his 20s. He loved his son so much that several years later, his grief caused him to lose his life. Just like Jacob. Just like Israel. So his father wept for him. That's how much he loved his son. Continuing on. Another father, like Jacob, weeping bitterly. And usually when a person is weeping like that, they're usually weeping for their child. We can handle the death of our parents because our parents should go first. Our parents want to leave first. The parent don't want to leave earth ahead of their children. People usually don't weep like this for their parent because they expect their parents to go first. People usually weep like this man right here for the death of a child, a son or daughter. Let's read. Just coming from Genesis chapter 42, verse 36. We're talking about Jacob again. Their father Jacob said to them, you have deprived me of my children. Now he didn't say not one child like before. Now he said my children, 2 or more. Joseph is no more. Okay, he thinks Joseph is dead, but he's in Egypt. And Simon is no more. Simon is in Egypt, held hostage. And now you want me to take Benjamin. You want to take 3 of my sons. 3 of my sons. You took Joseph. Simon is gone. And now you want to take Benjamin. Oh my God, 3 of my children are... No parent can deal with that. You can slightly deal with the dismissal of 1. But it's a devastating blow when a parent sees 3 of them gone. And not in a fire. Not quick like in a... Because some parents lose their children in the fire. No. He lost his children over the years. 2 years, 5 years, 6 years. That's even more devastating. Then he said, everything is against me. And this is what I love about the Bible, my people. Because he's human. He said, my children are gone. The world is against me. Have you ever felt like that? No matter how much you love God, when you're having a bad day or bad month, or people bothering you, you say, everything is against me. That's how Jacob felt with the loss of his children. This is Genesis chapter 50, and I believe it's starting at verse 1. Joseph threw himself on his father and wept over him and kissed him. Joseph, the son who was exiled to Egypt, when he met his father, after a number of decades, he ran to his father and threw himself on him, and he wept bitterly. He thought he would never see his father again. And you know Joseph was a strong man too. He told Pharaoh those dreams. He told his parents those dreams. He told the people in jail dreams. He was a strong, honorable man. And he wept over him, and he kissed his father immensely. Then Joseph directed the physicians in his service to embalm his father Israel. So now his father has passed away. He's weeping bitterly over his father. So the physicians embalmed him, taking a full 40 days, for that was the time required for embalming. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. Wow, that's a long time for mourning. In America, we mourn one, and throughout the, I'm sure throughout the world, but especially in the Western world, we only mourn 1 or 2 days. Then you gotta go back to work, back to living, back to paying bills. When the days of mourning had passed, Joseph said to Pharaoh, court, if I have found favor in your eyes, speak to Pharaoh for me. Tell him, my father made me swear an oath and said, I'm about to die. Bury me in a tomb I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. Now let me go up and bury my father, then I will return. So you see how honorable Joseph is. He said, my father has passed away. I wept over him bitterly. He was embalmed. Then he asked Pharaoh, with your permission, let me go bury my father in the land of Canaan, and I will gladly return. But the point is, Joseph, a strong, powerful man of God, strength and beauty and wisdom, he wept and showed his love for his deceased father, Jacob or Israel. Here we go. We see right here a man and woman. So our next text will deal with the relationship between a man and a woman. You may have an idea who it is, especially if you know about the book of Judges. It's coming from the book of Judges. We start with chapter 14. Let's see. Chapter 14, verse 16. Then Samson's wife threw herself on him, sobbing. This case is a woman who's crying. She's a devious woman, though. Devious and sneaky. You hate me. You don't really love me. Haven't we seen that before, even here now in the 21st century? A person get upset, a woman get upset, they start crying, and they say, you don't love me, so I'm going to cry. You're giving my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer. Samson's not crying, but his wife is. Again, we see people in the Bible have real human emotions, whether the people are just or unjust. The Bible not hiding the weeping from both parties. The just and the unjust weep bitterly. It's coming from Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 5. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. So, and we know Moses did die. Moses is dead. He buried him in Moab. God buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor. But to this day, no one knows where his grave is. For all we know, it can be 100 meters below the ground, because God buried him. Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. So he was 120, but he was more like a 30 or 40-year-old man. The Israelites grieved for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days, until the time of weeping and mourning was over. Moses, an unreluctant leader for the children of Israel, served his time. He lived to 120, and he died And like with those Egyptians, he didn't have no 4 or 3 day mourning. No. In the biblical time, the people show their love. They mourned for 30 days to heal themselves. And the main thing, weeping and mourning was over. So this covered a whole nation, not just men. Men were weeping, women were weeping, the elderly were weeping, and children was weeping. Everybody was weeping and crying over the death of Moses, and no one was embarrassed to cry. There were military men. There were political leaders. There were elders in the nation of Israel. But the Bible said there was weeping. No one was ashamed to cry for Moses. My theme, strong men do cry. This is Numbers chapter 11. Once more in the Old Testament. If you know anything about the book of Numbers, it's pertaining to Moses and the children of Israel. Moses heard the people of every family wailing at the entrance to their tents. The Lord became exceedingly angry. Because you remember, if you read about the Bible, the children of Israel, God said these people tempted me 10 times. They doubted me 10 times. They saw all my power, all my glory, yet they know I'm God, and they still doubting me 10 times. And Moses was troubled. He asked the Lord, why have you brought this trouble on your servant? Like I said, with Jacob, the people in the Bible, they was very human. Moses said to God, why have you brought all these nagging people on me? What have I done to displease you that you have put the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms as a nurse carries an infant to the land you promised an oath to their ancestors? But again, you see, Moses was very human. The children was wailing and crying, or the Israelites was wailing and crying outside their tent. In this case, they was wailing and crying for meat. He said, we're tired of eating all this manna. We're tired of eating this bread. Give us something meat to eat. And God took care of that. But the main point, every family was wailing at the entrance to their tents. They was crying. They was not ashamed. The mighty man was crying. The mighty woman was crying. The weak man, the weak woman, they was all crying. Boys and girls, young and old, everybody was wailing at the entrance to their tents. Let's move right along. This coming from Samuel, chapter 18, verse 33. If you know anything about the Bible, you see the picture right here, you should know what I'm going to read or who I'm going to be talking about. The king was shaking. Okay, now, see, I don't even got to say he was crying. He was shaking. He was unhealable. He was thrown off his center of gravity. He was rocked to his core. He went up to the room over the gateway and wept. I don't got to spell it out. He cried. As he went, he said, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son, my son." Now, I don't know if Absalom was his first son or not. You have to check that out by going to the book of Samuel. But we see here, my good people, a parent, just like in the 21st century, a parent is weeping and crying, shaking, upset, upheavaled, disjointed over the death of his son. And you see he's weeping bitterly And you see what the pastor said. He screamed out, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son," 3 times. 4 times. Let me see how many times he named Absalom's name. 1, 2, 3. And he said my son about 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He said it 5 times, wailing bitterly for his son. And you know, my people, if you know about King David, he was a mighty warrior. You probably heard, if you know about the Bible, they said Saul have killed his thousands. David has slaughtered 10,000s. David was a powerful, strong man. Powerful indeed. Powerful for his love for God. Powerful dealing with men. And powerful dealing with women. He was, quote, in the Western world saying, he was a man's man. But he shared he was not embarrassed to weep on the spot for the departure of his son Absalom. Let's move on. This is Mark chapter 5, verse 21 to 43. But I didn't go that long. But hey, you got an idea that is going to involve Jesus just by saying coming from the book of Mark. It's going to be talking about the Son of God, Jesus Christ. He did not let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw a commotion with people crying and wailing. There we go again. Many people, men and women, boys and girls, not just crying, wailing. When you're wailing, you're shouting, you're throwing yourself over the ground, you're turning around in circles. You don't know what to do with yourself when you're wailing. He went in and said to them, look what Jesus said. Why all this commotion and wailing? So it was a big uproar. The people was yelling, falling over themselves. They didn't know what to do with themselves with the passing of this little girl. The child is not dead, but asleep. But then they laughed at him because they said she's dead. But the main thing, people, strong men do cry. These were religious leaders crying. And I'm sure it was a lot of religious leaders that crying. And they know about the Bible, but they were still wailing. Warriors was there, crying and wailing, and the common people was there, crying and wailing. Let's move on. This is John chapter 11. Dealing with Jesus again, because coming from the book of John. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." So you know it's talking about the Lazarus story. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. But you remember, Jesus saw the people weeping. He saw I don't know if they was wailing, but he knew they was crying, and that moved him. So Jesus was not a robot. He was not unemotional. He had emotion. The people wailed so much it troubled his spirit, and he was troubled. He was upset. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. "Come and see, Lord," they replied. And then he was so upset, it said, Jesus wept. That's one of the most powerful scriptures in the Bible. He wept. Jesus started crying. Then the people are going to say this. Then the Jews said, "See how he loved Lazarus." Because even Jesus, the alleged Messiah, the alleged Son of God, even he was weeping. And you know he was a strong man. He was a powerful man in word and deed. Because the Bible said that too. When he was a child, he grew up in harmony with men and all the people around him. He was a powerful, strong man. Do cried. And Jesus was a strong man. Once more, it's talking about Jesus. It's coming from Luke chapter 19, verse 41 to 44. Oh, what happened? All right, here we go. And when he drew near and saw the city, he wept again. We got Jesus crying 2 times, saying, would that you, even you, had known on this day the things that make for your peace. But now they are hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will set up a barricade around you and surround you and hem you in on every